Welcome back. Let's talk about Seattle, Washington, because there's 737,000 people that live there, and it could be important to them, and it could be important to you as well. So let's just take a moment and go into this. This could be your neighborhood, somewhere where you're thinking about living or working in. So I want to give you an idea of where and what is going on in Seattle. And this is Seattle as a whole. This isn't the certain neighborhoods or any kind of zip codes broken down for you, but this is just everything inside of the city of Seattle for the month of January. So thank you very much for joining me. Let's jump in. So if you're new to my channel, you might know that I cover a lot of different things when I'm actually going through this, but a lot of the information I get is actually from the United States Census Bureau, the Northwest MLS, as well as Investopedia for the interest rates. So I want to go into it again. But like I said, Seattle, Washington is located in, obviously Seattle, Washington, and that's where the Space Needle is. We have the Seattle Seahawks. We just got a new head coach, and at the same time, too, they need to practice more. But like I said, there's 737,000 people that live there, and the employment is right around 71% in this area. And then on the household unit side, there's 367,000 household units. So this means roughly there's two persons in each household. Also, the medium income in this area is $115,000. And then when we look at the bachelor degrees or higher, it's a little over 2/3 have a bachelor degree or higher inside of Seattle, Washington. So this does affect our medium income, and our medium income, like I said, is about 115,000. Now, just as a quick note on the medium, that is not average. Medium is if you lined up everyone's income from left to right and you pick the middle, that is the medium. The average is you take everyone's income from left to right, doesn't matter. You just take the average of that and you just add everyone up and you divide by that number. There's a difference between average and medium. So let's talk about the mortgage side of things real fast. So some of you have asked me, where do I get these numbers on the mortgage side? This is updated daily. This is from investopedia.com. This is 7.08 right now is the average 30-year fixed rate mortgage inside of Seattle, Washington for purchases. That's as Washington as a whole, and that's for 700 to 760 credit scores just on average. And a lot of the times when you see those teaser rates on the media, those are the 800 credit scores and above. That's what we call the exceptional credits, and almost no one actually gets those. So I want to give you an idea of what the average credit score is in this area. And then also, if you just Googled it, I just Googled it earlier today. It says just on Google, the Google machine says it's 7.08 is your average fixed rate inside of Washington, the United States as a whole. So it's a little bit different, but this is very important because we're going to get into the number side of thing right now. So on the number side, I actually went through and I pulled all the sales data for Seattle, Washington inside of the month of January. And I did for January 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. So that's 5 years of data, just so you know. And I've been getting a lot of pushback on this kind of stuff, and I took about 2 weeks off to figure out exactly how I actually wanted to convey the message to you and actually go over some of the numbers, because it's really important to actually go into this and know exactly what we're talking about. But this is a 5-year look back into our history inside of Seattle, Washington. And again, this is all of Seattle's information, and this is just Seattle as a whole, period. So we'll just go over it from the top. But right now, inside of Seattle, Washington, let me see, there is 998 available homes for purchase as of this morning. Now, I removed 2 of those because those were actually slips, and that's actually what houseboats actually buy. So I did remove 2 of those, so there's 996. And the average price the average home out there was $1,178,000. The average days on market was 77 days on market. So it's been sitting on the market right now for 77 days, so a little over 2.5 months. And the average, on average, it had two beds, 2.6 beds, and two baths, and it was about 1682 square feet. So now you have just a general clue of what it looks like. Now, this includes all of single family homes, townhouses, and condos as a total aggregate. And again, we're going back to that average that I talked about earlier. This is literally every single sale that we've had inside of Seattle, Washington, or available home. And that's why I'm saying as of right now, there's 996 homes available inside of Washington for purchase. So 1,000. Now, when we get into January, I'm going to skip down to the page here. There's about 4,000 lines of data in here. So if you have any questions, I can send you my spreadsheet, and you can double check it if you like. But so far, no one's actually taken me up on that. But when I take the average size of every single one of these sales inside of Washington for the last 5 years, I came up with 1,647 square feet. Now I want to have a quick moment and say, hey, in your mind right now, imagine a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house that's 1,647 square feet. That is the average house that we're talking about. This does not include any kind of upgrades, any kind of remodel. If it has an ADU in the background, that's an additional dwelling unit for any of you that want to know. And it doesn't include things like if it has a second story or anything like that. But this is all the average houses inside of Seattle, Washington. On average, 3 beds, 2 bath, 1,647 square feet. And this is our average house. And then when I take the price per square foot of the last 5 years and I compare it against each other, now we have an idea of how much the prices have changed inside of Washington, inside of Seattle. Because it's really, really, really hard to actually give a like-for-like replacement of a house because each house is different a little bit. So when we get into the large numbers on this, we're going to be a little bit more able to actually break down a cost per square foot because of the law of large numbers. So when I compare this 1,647 square foot 3-bed 2-bath home in 2020 in January, on average in January, if you bought that in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, it would cost you on average $785,000. Now let me make that a little bit bigger here so you can see it. But $785,000 is what it would cost you just a couple of years ago. Now, where it is inside of 1 year later, if you just waited 1 year into the pandemic, and inside of 2021 in January, it would be worth $846,000. So it went up almost 8%. This is a big jump, but this is also what we've seen all across the nation. Everything went up, and it went up almost monthly, 3 to 5% per month for the first year. So it was a huge jump. Now you take that same 1,647 square foot house and you bought it in 2022, it would be $953,000. So it went up another 12% after that. Now, this is when it starts changing a little bit because last year the interest rates went up. And this is what we were talking about earlier, is the interest rates have been going up. We actually used to be able to buy this house on a 3% loan. Well, right now, as I just went into it, our average prices, our average interest rates are around 7.8, 7.08, just so you have a general clue of where it is. So if you bought this house inside of January 2023, it would cost you $885,000. So it went down 7.5%. So that's quite a bit, that's $70,000. Well, this last 2024, it actually bumped up another $45,000 roughly, and it went up 5%. So this is the bump that people have been talking about lately, and it's very important to actually talk about this. Everyone that I've been talking to are like, hey, the market's back. The market isn't really back right now. And I want to pull back some of the numbers for you because none of these numbers really matter to you when you actually look at the velocity of the sales. So inside of January in 2020, we sold 616 homes inside of Seattle, Washington. That's a big area. Like I said, there's over 385,000 household units inside of Seattle, Washington. We're not even counting houses. We're just saying only specifically household units. So there were 616 homes sold inside of January 2020. In January 2021, there was 762 homes sold inside of that time period. So 1 year later, like I said, it was 23% higher. Now, in 2022, it went down a little bit. It was a little bit above average, and it went down to 660. Now, we're going to talk about the interest rate change. The interest rates went up now. In January 2023, we had higher interest rates, and we only had 388 homes sold inside of Washington in January. So when people also say, hey, it's seasonal, we're in a slowdown because it's seasonal, it's not. This is actually quite a bit lower than the average because the average before COVID was 616. In COVID, it was between 760 to 660. So just a little bit above the average. Well, then it went down to 380, like I said. Then in January of 2024, it went down again. It actually ticked up just a little bit to 402 homes were sold inside of Seattle, Washington. So these are a lot of numbers, but what I want to demonstrate to you is the homes sold up until the interest rate changed were in the 600 somethings, and now we're in the 380 to 400. So this is quite a big change. It's about 40% lower than usual. So keep that in mind when we're looking at our interest rates, because that's where it really comes down to things. Now, one thing that I didn't talk to you about, but I want to actually express this to you, is when I take every single home inside of Washington, inside of Seattle, Washington, and I have, 3,800 entries in here that have these homes in here, I take the square foot and I divide that by the price that you sell the home. So you take the price that sells for the home, so $1 million or whatever it is, and then you divide it by how large the house is. Then you get an average price per square foot. And then when I add them all up and I aggregate them together, we see the price change. Like I've been saying, the price change has been fluctuating a bit and is actually going down a little bit, and it ticked up just a hair. So keep this in mind when you're hearing in the market right now, hey, the market's back, you got to compete. Well, interest rates are still really high and it's really hard to actually get financed. So if you have questions on financing, reach out to me and I'll be happy to introduce you to someone that I know and trust, and they'll see what you need to do to get qualified for a loan. So another thing I want to talk about is the rents. So the rents in this area are $2.61 a month per square foot. So it's for every, let me clarify that. The rents in this area are $2.61 per square foot per month. So what that comes into is my apartment here is 700 square feet. So if the 700 square feet, roughly that would be right about $2,000. Surprisingly, that's actually where I sit. So keep that in mind when you're actually looking at this, because your cost to purchase right now versus your cost to rent on a square foot versus square foot basis, it's actually 138% more to buy right now than it is to rent. Because if we were to rent the exact same size house, the 1647, that average home that we talked about earlier, the 3 beds, 2 baths, Seattle average home, what it would come out to on a monthly basis is $4,300. if you were to rent it. If you were to buy it, it would be $6,000. So that's 38% higher to actually buy, and that's really expensive, and that's some reason why we're seeing a issue with our sales in this area. It's because we're running into an affordability issue. And, you know, I know I'm going long on this kind of stuff this time, but I just wanted to kind of reset and just say, hey, I've been having this conversation for a year now, and I actually want to talk about some of these numbers and what they actually mean, because I've gotten a lot better at actually expressing these. So, yeah, the reason why I do this is I just really want to take some time to break down some of the numbers in the area. And at the same time, I want to take a moment and just say, hey, you know, if you have questions on this kind of stuff, it's a case-by-case basis on you, and it's a case-by-case basis for your family. If you want to actually do a purchase, or you want to move, or you want to make some plans, that kind of thing, feel free to contact me. I'd love to work with you, or I'd love to refer you to a friend of mine if you don't feel comfortable working with me, or you want somebody in your area. So if you have any questions on this kind of stuff, just hit me up. I'd be just love to work with you. And as always, it's lovely working with you today, and I hope you have a fantastic day.